to keep them all straight. But it's wonderful what you can remember. Or I'm trying to retain as many as I can. So we meet again. It would seem we're bound by destiny after all. Who are you again? Named Shiraishi. I'm in the bet collection business. Bet collection. I make sure folks pay up on bets they lost at casinos. That guy over there, an owner of a bar, lost his fortune at the poker table the other day. In his final hand, he bet the deed to his bar. Yikes. And well, he ended up losing it. So, I'm here to collect. But you know, it's no fun grabbing stuff away from a bawling crybaby. That's why I figured I'd go my usual route and let him try to win back the deed. And what's your usual route? When there's a lot of cash on the line, I challenge the poor sap to a game of pool to decide whether I should actually collect or not. They're hanging on by threads, see? I give them one last chance to see if they got what it takes. It's a pretty crooked hobby, messing with people like that. Maybe so. That crooked hobby has also saved a share of people too. I've seen it happen from time to time. Oh, are we playing for that guy's bar deed? Okay, what does any of this have to do with me? You just wanted to share some random stories with me or what?
Yeah.
No, that's not it. I was actually hoping you could be the stand-in for the bar owner, that is. Are you kidding me? Please, I'm begging you. I'm the owner of the bar you were talking to Shirashi-san about. Please, won't you help me? For the love of all that is good and noble, I need your assistance. You've got to take my place at the pool table. What if he's better than me? Because I'm not particularly great at pool. Sorry, Kiryu. And why would I do that? Because I've never played pool in my life. Not even okay, fair enough. Can't you see I'm doomed from the very start? He wants a worthy opponent. I'm the total opposite. But there you have it. Where's the fun in playing a game I know I'm gonna win? That's where you come in. Rich people problem. I tell ya, rich people problem. You really are a manipulative old cogger. Cogger? You know that? That may be. But if you manage to win, you'll be saving this poor fella along with his forfeit bar. So what do you say? Think of it as a charity match. Honestly, if there wasn't like a really sense of failure and disappointment in this arrangement, I would love to do something like that. The charity matching, like, it's a very big euphemism that guy is doing, but there's obviously big stakes. But that would be pretty cool to do something to give an opportunity to a person. But the losing and taking away that opportunity, I don't think that part does not appeal to me. I like my bottom line where you either default, not necessarily negative like what this guy is doing, or if you win, you win. It's icing, right? This isn't an icing situation. This is more of a do or die situation. Please, I'm begging you. All right. I'm not that great. Sorry, Kiryu. Fine then, you're on. Excellent. I could tell just by looking at that you were a true warrior. In so many ways than one. So he hath been told. The game is 9-ball. 9-ball pool. Whoever sinks the 9-ball first wins. Alright. You've got to win this one. I swear, there's a reward in it for you if you do. I think, in my personal opinion, the reward is stop gambling your bar away. But anyways, that's just me. Now, let's begin. Don't let me down. That's the I'm a sap, I guess. But the best reward when you get someone out of trouble is that you hope that to tell them they won't get into that type of trouble again, in my opinion.
Yakuza.
Giving is a thing. Truly giving is a thing that opportunists. I can't relate to opportunists. Opportunistic people expecting reward for a voluntary choice of gifting someone something. So if I accept an offer or a challenge, I understand that if I fail, I'm also not expected to deliver, much like the person who I'm trying to help. So it's a mutual understanding that if I win, you get everything. But with the expectation that if I lose, you get nothing. But I also don't expect to get something. That's kind of like how I roll. Shortcut. That's a hot take about myself. So whenever people like request things from me, like, oh, can you get this done? Or like, can you do this? I hope they understand that I will try my best. But at the same time, I don't expect anything in return. So therefore, the expectation of me delivering on things are also equated to that. It's an icing. It's a additional perk of trying anyways. One of the downsides is if you're a person that cut corners a lot or feel like there's a big barrier for motivation, the thing I described is not a approach that would be very positive reinforcement for someone who lacks motivation. I am not an individual that struggles with motivation, so it's often fine. I need to find up a system of how to do this. So let's say I want to hit this thing, right? And then I want to hit the 9-ball combo. So I want to bank, combo the 9-ball. So I guess I'm drawing a straight line to where I think I want to hit the ball. So if this is true, I will end it. I will end it with one shot. But the reason why I'm not good at this game is when you pull down on the right analog stick, the pullback has left and right adjustments to it. So if you don't pull down straight, which my stick is not guaranteed to shift straight down because there's some drift, it can just rear off course just a little bit. And this shot is really long. The longer the distance it has, the higher chance I'm gonna deviate, which is kind of like regular pool, right? So let's find out. Yeah, see? It was nowhere near the projected target, even though I attempted my best to pull straight down and up and push up. It's nowhere near, and that's why this game is tough. You cannot, there's not enough zone, there's not enough like dead zone from left and right that it's brutally punishing. You can't even make straight shots if you want. Unlike darts. Darts was like the GOAT for me because we were able to gauge exactly, it has like notches, so it snaps in at different notches and you can reproducibly produce that, reproducibly throw where you want after you get the hang of it. This game, the goal of this game, my approach is we try to get a combo shot into the 9. Or a cannon shot. Or they're called Karam shots, but I don't know what the difference between a cannon and a Karam shot is. I think a cannon shot means it's like really long, like the cue ball travels a long distance, but usually that's the case for most of the shots anyways. And it doesn't bank or something. Maybe that's the... For 9-ball, we just wait till the AI sinks most of them. Sometimes I take the free ones to speed it up. See, like, I know how pool works. Like, this is the angle I want. But the ball is going to have a slight chance it deviates left and right. Yeah, so you deviated left. It didn't hit the spot that it was supposed to. And it was such a light tap, too. Luckily, the AI is kind of forgiving in this one. For this sub-story. But we're not going to try to sync it. We're trying to get an opportunity at a combo shot. That was unintentional. I wanted to move the 6 closer so I could get a combo shot opportunity. I mean, we might as well practice. Like drawing lines. We haven't been the toughest opponent. Yeah, see, that went to the right. It bared right, so it didn't hit straight. It went off to the right a little. I'm like looking at my stick while I'm doing it and trying my best to pull down. I think we're gonna have to modify our controls so that it doesn't enter left and right during this game. That's probably the way to go for this. I don't want it to hit left or right no matter what. Like, most of the time I don't. Even shots like this is a gimme shot, but it's too long. Like, this is the line I want to play, but I'm not confident that it's gonna hit it's gonna get hit straight. Oh, thank goodness it did. It's such a gamble. All right, we did it. We got that guy's bar back. It's fine. This pump, the awkward, like, that's a really awkward animation. I'm sorry, RGG, but that gesture is not the greatest. But anyways, we'll let you fist pump a little bit. Oh, and that animation is great too. How they celebrate. If you just leave it here, they're just gonna get a lot of exercise. The guy has some Converse on. Those are some really those are not the type of shoes I would expect on a guy like that, but you know. You did it! You actually won! Yes! Oof. Not bad at all. I ain't played a solid game like that in years. You have no idea how grateful I am. Now I can keep my bar open. Oh, this is fantastic. What about the money he owes the casino? Do you just pay for it out of your own pocket? Sure do. I got plenty tucked away, so money ain't no thing. It's just that at my age, I like having a front row seat when people suddenly gotta play for keeps. It's either the desperation or the determination that spices things up for me. Old age. Affluent old age. You really do have a crooked way of thinking. Not particularly. That actually happens quite often. Human condition, Kiryu. Ah, I suppose you're right. Actually, that's kind of a deep cut because I don't think Kiryu would be surprised. I mean, he didn't say he's surprised. He just made a comment. But actually his lifestyle makes him encounter such people most of the time. Uh, in this frame of context, it's a lot bit more, I guess, lighthearted to accept, as opposed to like organized crime. I suppose you're right, but get to my age and you'll see what I mean exactly. It's actually a fairly common thing. The context might be unique to this guy, or maybe less happening, but actually this happens really regularly. It just is guised in different contexts. It's a really deep human condition. A digression, which we won't do today. I wouldn't count on it. Oh, and just out of curiosity, what would you have done if I had lost? So here's the thing. Kiryu is already doing it at the age of 39. Or at least the player who's playing Kiryu is already doing it. He's constantly taking risk, trusting people in scams and helping them out. That is the same contextual crooked way. Just Kiryu is foolhardy, altruistic in a way. So he like sees it as doing good or failing to do good, but it's still an attempt to do good. So his moral compass is making it look like it's not crooked. But what he's actually doing is he's forgetting that he's expending himself. The gamble is a risk to himself. That is a crooked way of making your life spicier by going out of your way to take care of people or like try to help people. It's crooked because Kiryu is risking himself. It's not self-preservation. But because it's for a greater good kind of thing, the moral compass flips the script on why Kiryu can't see that. But yeah, the old guy, he doesn't actually have to see that Kiryu needs to get older. The older Kiryu gets, the more risk he's placing himself into for his reward or his payout. And he's keeping his life spicy by taking on those risks. The older guy actually has a more consistent, pragmatic approach than Kiryu does. Kiryu is the embodiment of risk-taking in old age. And the older you get, this risk-taking at the expense of self continues. In both cases, they're taking risks to themselves. Their money, their legacy, or what have you, their, person. He's risking money that is already owed to him. Kiryu is risking his life every single time. Kiryu has a way crookeder when it comes to pragmatism, but the moral compass makes it sound like it's different. And that's kind of like a slight deep cut, but that's kind of why you can see that the difference in when emotions and sentimentalism comes into play. But effectively, the underlying human condition is the same. It's very similar. Alright. Oh, and just out of curiosity, what would you have done if I had lost? So, if they're going like full throttle on a rich guy, it would probably just continue to offer the chance for someone else to win, because it's providing his life entertainment. So if you're in that age of if you've gotten that old where your life is outside of yourself, like introducing things uncontrollable to your life because you spend most of your life controlling it, to live it up a little, he would probably say, which we'll find out after I hit A, he'll continue to do it until someone wins, because he technically wants a good game, not necessarily to win or lose. He's willing to risk the things he's willing to part with, unlike Kiryu, who his sense of justice puts his life at risk, which he doesn't necessarily want to give up. Although one could argue that Kiryu's okay with giving up his life for a good cause, because he is full-heartedly like superhero justice guy. Alternatively, he could just say, well, it's no skin off my back, I'll give the deed back to the bar anyways for a good game, which is what they just had here. Heh. Mighty fine question you asked there. I'd probably get the deed, take over the bar, and put this guy to work as the manager. That's really pragmatic. That's a way to repurpose your investment. And honestly, it's ironic because the one that seems less the most reasonable pragmatically is actually this guy. Shiraishi has the most pragmatic approach, as opposed to Kiryu, who's focused solely on the moral compass of like what's right and wrong. It's a great juxtaposition. I really like Kiryu's character a lot because it reflects something that I'm not most of the time, and it's fun role playing as Kiryu. Shiraishi is closer to something that like a mix of what he is doing is probably closer to what I would do personally, because that's a very pragmatic way. It gives that, and to add to this guy's thing, he would put the guy at work as a manager, and eventually down the road would offer this guy the opportunity to take his bar back. He gets to make money on the side. He gets to rehabilitate and teach the bar owner a lesson, but also be able to productively help him, you know, focus on the thing that matters. And then ultimately what he did was he get to flex what he does, get a little philanthropy in, enter a different thing that he didn't want to do to keep it spicy, and at the same time, in the long run, you make a new friend, or you at least make a new supporting person, right? And that's kind of reinvesting in people. So that's really cool. I think RGG wrote really well. Just these one-liners are fantastic, in my opinion. It's a great life lesson. That's what you were planning to do all along? Of course. That's what happens. That's the fine line between someone who got to his position and someone who doesn't. He didn't really become rich and like foolhardy and full of many opportunities by throwing opportunities away or acquiring and closing opportunities. He continues to make more opportunity. Let the money work itself. Well, for a sap who gambles all day and night, it takes a hard lesson to smack some sense into you. That's what he did. That's the approach. Shiraishi would teach the former bar owner a lesson about gambling. And that's fantastic. I love that they wrote this out. It's such good writing. I get it. He saved up a bit of cash and you gave him back to, and you give him back the deed. Is that how it goes? There it is. Full circle. Right there. Called it. Now, it just wouldn't do for me to give away all my secrets, would it? But listen, it was a great game. I wouldn't mind giving you a real match one of these days. Then I'll be waiting for that day to come. Well, see you around, young man. You don't know how much this means to me. I'll never gamble again, I swear. So here's the thing, right? Kiryu won. You're role playing as Kiryu. So the thing about altruism and like the learning it in the path of least resistance without a guarantor is that the likelihood in this scenario, in like a realistic setting, is that this bar owner is going to fail because Kiryu succeeded. Shiraishi winning would likely more guarantee statistically that the bar owner would succeed over time. Kiryu is not a person who is involved in this like give or take and repurposing and reinvesting stuff. So he did the bar owner a favor and a disservice at the same time. He does not guarantee that the bar owner isn't going to gamble again. The idea is how the bar owner reacts is reflective of Kiryu's personality. So the people you invest in or impress upon, Kiryu has rescued him through a sheer act of luck. So this bar owner has not learned a lesson, and not only that, has reflected Kiryu's good faith. So this sentence reflects that good faith. I'll never gamble again, I swear. That's just simply not true in a realistic setting. A person doesn't flip 180 immediately due to a serendipitous encounter with life. If you win the lottery suddenly, it doesn't mean you're gonna grow instantly to have great money management. If you were poor and you suddenly won the lottery, you will most habitually and likely, the realistic outcome is that person is going to lose all that money again because they do not develop these skills overnight. And that's kind of the harsh lesson in the human condition. So it's great that Kiryu is succeeding and being his like Superman self. This has turned into a digression, so we might as well get in the digression, right? It doesn't teach life lessons, and it's so great in my opinion. I love this type of writing. It's so good to illustrate. This is applied to most things. It's difficult for humans to appreciate a lot of times the process of how you get from point A to point B without experiencing it. But there are things that that are experienced with great consequence, that if you had the opportunity to have someone who can guide you in that process, it often leads to a more consistent transition than someone who's out to do it just out of generosity. Because Kiryu was just in the Kiryu is not making this guarantee, right? Like, you can even reinforce that Kiryu as a character would probably agree that he did very little for the bar owner. He just happens to be at the right place at the right time with the skills necessary to basically undo his mistake with no strings attached, because Kiryu is a great guy. He wasn't here in this place to give a life lesson to the bar owner. Shirashi was. It's not every day that and here another realistic hot take, slight digression of the digression, is that Shirashi is not the typical loan shark either. He was still gonna repurpose it to give himself gains, but rarely, a lot rarer is a person who is trying to teach a lesson without bearing the person. And that is so good, because I really love that they illustrated that that can be a possibility. And overall, he's gonna gamble again. That's the most realistic outcome. You could bet, which Kiryu will bet. His character is about constantly trusting, but blind trusting, as in he doesn't want to get involved directly. He believes in the goodness of people's hearts, will carry them to logical conclusions and pragmatic conclusions. And that's naive, but that's why I love the character that Kiryu is. It's the thing that personally, including myself, and maybe a lot of people strive to be. Realistically, he's still a character in a video game. And there's largely a reason why he sticks out as a great character, because he is a video game character. He is not a realistic character. Like, what I mean is, if this became autobiographical and the space, that's rarely does someone get shaped into someone like Kiryu in their approaching their 40s. It's so uncommon because there are things about the human condition that it's great to work around them. So, like, what Kiryu says next is probably, oh, you know, what he would usually say that would be consistent is, I didn't do very much. I just played a game. Good luck. And that it ends there. As opposed to someone like Sorashi, no matter win or lose, he's gonna have an investment in the bar owner's future. So ultimately, winning this pool game, which is kind of funny because I don't know if you have to win these to complete it, if you know what I mean, because you can get a check mark or something. Personally, if I was the character in Kiryu's shoes, I would have discussed what his plans are before playing the game, because ultimately I would have chosen to lose instead. But here's the icing on the cake thing. If I won, the bar owner gets this bar back, so that's icing on the cake. The true winner is losing, actually, and giving the responsibilities to Shiraishi to manage the bar, and ultimately down the road, which is what Kiryu said, like, oh, okay, so you were a good guy, but he was playing on the side of the devil's advocate. So he was suspicious as opposed to trusting, which is a little bit contradictory to what Kiryu says. But Kiryu was really open to the idea. He looked for the nice explainer to what the guy had planned. And that's so good. It's kind of like the whole give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach the man how to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime kind of deal. So Shiraishi, being someone who's financially well endowed, probably handles a lot of these situations, he's very seasoned to understand what kind of person this bar owner is and how this bar owner got into the mess in the first place. And it's so great that, to the point where I feel I had a romantic vision, those who are interacting with these parts are often like Shiraishi, because that would be great. But that's not the case most of the time. People who are loan sharks make a lot of money, right? They self-select themselves with a personality that would allow them or enable them to make a lot of money and make these decisions. So often that doesn't come with compassion. However, they threw in a curveball. Shiraishi is old. He is much, much older. So he's building legacy now, which checks out stronger than pragmatism. If Shiraishi was younger, he would probably repurpose the bar or sell it off to the highest bidder to get that early cash and then turn over as much as possible, because younger people tend to be more opportunistic early on, because they still have aspirations of acquiring more assets. So it was great. Like, man, it's so difficult to get through these sub stories because they're so filled with life's deep cuts, and this is a great one. It's kind of the thing that often, one like slight digression to the side, that I've kind of touched upon before that's related to this, is the idea that it is without a doubt that both Kiryu and Shiraishi are two sides of a coin in this conversation, but their experiences with hardship and like they got into this situation because they both gone through roller coasters. It's safe to gamble that Shiraishi understands the situation the bar owner is in order to come to the conclusion of the pragmatic approach that bar owner has, because there's a level of empathy that's required to suggest that. And then Kiryu being able to see the compassion in Shiraishi's plan all along comes with that hardship. So the deep cut now is onto the current state of the internet and stardom and instant stardom. When someone at a young age skyrockets in stardom, which typically nowadays that's kind of the ones that get the spotlights, right? You tend to see a lot of extraordinary people who may have shot up. But the truth about it is, when you start to imitate or start to look at what their advice is, you can kind of pick out the Kiryus, the Sarashis, and the bar owners. And what I mean by that is there are a lot in between. They're on a spectrum. But the bar owners are the ones that I particularly focus on when it comes to the internet. And those are the hustle people. And what I mean by hustle, the bar owner has a pure heart. Kiryu has a pure heart. Shirashi has a pure heart. They're all motivated. But the level, the limit of their experiences put them at three opposite corners. Kiryu is not affluent or rich because he have reached a state that isn't dependent on being affluent. The bar owner is not affluent, but is a consequence of the lack of experience, and Shirashi is affluent because of experience. So you have like the trifecta: the lack of experience and failure, the experience but not affluent, and then you have the affluent with experience. Well, when we think about content creators, right? When you look 5 steps to do these 5 steps and you become me, or I do these 3 steps and that's all you need to succeed in life. Well, depending on how that's presented, you can pick out which one of 3 of these are. The most concerning, unfortunately, is it's a nuance that is predicated on a person's personality and experience. So if someone is really young, the likelihood of which 3 of these situations would be most appealing is the bar owner. If you're, say, middle-aged and you still haven't made it big, you're probably still the bar owner. If you're older and you've already achieved the satisfaction of happiness, you're Kiryu. If you're older and you have been extremely career and success oriented, not like necessarily happy, you're Sarashi. There's a few more archetypes, but I'm only picking the ones that forward this without ballooning this into other territories. So the bar owner is not necessarily happy and content with their life. That's why they're seeking this, right? Kiryu is self-sacrificing. He's reached a point of happiness. But that is, when you reach a point of happiness, it doesn't guarantee that you need to seek resources. You've become content. So then you go through a period of self-sacrificing. The bar owner is desperate to get resources, and they're sacrificing their livelihood because they're inexperienced. So you have like the 3 steps. And when it comes to content creators, a lot of the stuff I watch, I focus on my major interest is the well-being of the generation that's coming up, like mentorship, education, and self-help, right? So a lot of it's the biggest trends, right? It's one of the biggest trends, in my opinion, on content creation, is the pervasive use of designing directed content towards what people think they need or want. So in this case, in this triangle situation, younger, inexperienced individuals would promote a mindset through their advice, out of the generosity of their hearts, a mindset that will land them in where the bar owner is struggling right now. The end game would be where Kiryu is. But ultimately, the most consistent of getting both of those factors are people who are approaching mentorship and success like storytelling and showing, like educating people, is Shirashi. He is the GOAT here in this situation. Like, of the very compartmentalized situation here, Shirashi is the GOAT. He is the most consistent of both the processes. Kiryu is the end game. You often are looking for a state in which you reach a state of life where you have no problem sacrificing yourself because you're happy. The only way, the most valuable thing is yourself now. Like, you're out there to give back. You're no longer self-absorbed to the point where you need anything more. But Shirashi has a balance of that. He still seeks something to make his life fulfilling outside of sacrificing himself. So he's playing it safe still, where I'm going to reinvest. It's not my dime I'm losing. I'm willing to lose it. I only sacrifice things I'm willing to lose, right? And but his pragmatism is offering a lesson that demonstrates that he knows how failure is. He knows how long it takes. He knows that lessons need to be learned, that you have to be taught what you have done, maybe not for the purpose of what you're going out to get. Unfortunately, in content creation, the vast majority of people are the effects of the founder's effect, which is this. A lot of the ones that are most sensational and will likely appeal to inexperienced kids and younger impressionable adults is the people who were the founders. And the founder effect is just this. You found Kiryu early in life and you got lucky. When you got lucky, you have a limited time window to learn as much life lessons as you can. But unfortunately, when you find Kiryu shuts the door on life lessons. You don't get the experience. You usually don't get the experience of falling from grace, taking criticisms, having many of your projects fail. You have the founder's effect. So when someone comes online, like on Twitch, right? No matter what they do, they'll have 5,000 viewers. Because the founder's effect produced a bottom line 5,000 viewers. Can they persist that? Yeah, they can, as long as they're consistent. But what I'm going to probably gamble is at some point, their personal life, they have placed all their refinement of learning potential on pause outside of their founder's effect. So at some point, burnout is going to be self-created because they did not have any of the life experiences to mitigate and prevent that from happening. So at some point, maybe like 4 or 5 years down the line, how fast they're burning, it's going to expire and they have to reinvent their life. And then at that point, they'll learn all the life lessons that Shirashi could have imparted on this bar owner already. So in the end, it still works out, hopefully, for those people. Unfortunately, it doesn't work out for everyone. And typically, it's the ones that get lucky. And sometimes I think one of the grandest questions, the hot take in this huge digression, is you gotta ask yourself, do you know yourself well enough that you can handle luck and all the consequences that come from it? Or are you a hard worker and you are a grinder that is more consistent and prefer to be consistent? A fall from grace is not the end of the world. I would say that when I was young, I was more like this bar owner. I was most definitely a burning bright star. And now having this discussion on a Twitch platform with, you know, feeling as young as I've ever been mentally is the consequence of what I would really say. I got lucky. I got really lucky. Things lined up. The chances of someone with my background to end up going to the university and getting the education that I have and the financial security that I have younger than Kiryu by 3 years in this game, in my my mid 30s, right? It's I say it fairly often. I am very grateful how lucky I was, but I am extremely consistent at reminding myself that my life experiences are incredibly limited because of how lucky I was. So when I spend most of my time looking at life lessons, observing people's human pattern, is to compensate. So I could call that luck too. By happenstance, I'm lucky to have a personality in a career that promotes myself to critically analyze all the things I lack. So it stopped me from falling off the boat, having a career pivot, and regretting, sitting here saying I regret most of the things I would change this, I would change that. I don't regret anything. In fact, it's to the point where the things I do, I don't even concern myself with whether I like it or not. Like, I don't do things because I like to do them. I don't do things because of what they have to offer me. I do them because there are people who are interested in them. And the chances of that happening, it could be 1%, it could be 0.1%, it could be 300%. It's irrelevant. I do it because someone cares about it. And that's the greatest part. That's Kiryu. So instead of me burning out and falling into bar owner territory, which could happen, like for example, I spent quite a bit of money to buy video games and whatnot, but it could have been the bar owner's level where I fall from grace. Now I'm looking for a new niche, so I pivot so hard that I spend all the money I've saved, reinvest in a irrational midlife crises, like, hey, I want to become a professional comedian all of a sudden. All right, let's just go buy like $3,000 or thousands of dollars of camera equipment and go for it and shoot for the stars like I was in my 20s. That would be the bar owner. You would gamble everything away. The whole gambling situation of bar owner getting a quick fix for his debt problems, that is not different, very different from over investing in like a SM7B and like buying like $10,000 PC and hoping that it somehow turns you into a career pivot into a professional entertainer, right? Online. That is the bar owner effect. We'll call it the bar owner effect for this discussion. I stopped myself from happening in that. Actually, COVID kind of helped too. It pretty much grounded me from making such a irrational mistake at the time, or like an irrational life lesson that I lacked. So over time, all that extra time allowed me to reevaluate, find a working lifestyle situation that normalized where I am now, and I got to a state closer to Kiryu because I was in Shirashi's position for a really long time. Only with one lack of baggage, I got lucky. Like, there were so many things that luck had to do with it. For example, a great example is my parents. They had a lot of experience, so they opened up in like the restaurant. They knew all the they had a network that supported them on all the like tens of years of experience on how to get that restaurant up and going. For me, my parents don't know anything about going to elementary school in the United States. They are not educated in English. So I go there, it's a one shot. It's the only public school. Somehow I aced it. Great. Then we moved to a better school system because we're moving up. It's the first and only school. I don't know if it works out. Then we went to the first and only high school. And then when in high school, I only applied to one college because I didn't know anything about college. And then I applied to the only thing my college suggested because I trusted one person. And then because of that person, they had a lot of experience. And I trusted that person. So even then, though, everything I did up to my PhD and post-PhD was a one-shot deal. Or it kind of expanded. So my choices became 1, 1, 1, 1. And then at college, it became 3. I had 3 choices. I started branching out because at the moment I got to college was the time I was given a choice. I met friends that I won't normally meet. I was not pulled down by the baggage of everything that is weighed on me as a kid who's just basically experimenting. And then when I had the choice, I remember everything about it. My college professor, friend, colleague, I guess I can call him a colleague now. He was everything to me because he had over 30 years of experience that was relevant to my life's trajectory. And it was the first source of it. And I saw that opportunity and I took it. So that's the first time I've ever had a choice. So imagine all these things working out. That's statistics. I was statistically unlikely to be successful using those series of events. The insurmountable amount of experience my parents have was not going to be statistically favorable for me in a different country. Like all their elements of, yes, there's some of it is transferable, but the reason why it takes multiple generations for having a transplanted multicultural family to ultimately reach out of their like legacy is because it takes more than one generation. But for me to leapfrog past that, oh, I'm an intermediate generation to the 1% is super unlikely. So my life is filled with lucky happenstance. I happen to meet the one person, the one school, the one college with the one advisor that finally gave me choices, and all those choices were viable, those limited choices, and then the one choice I made led to the one person that led to the one university that filled all the requirements. And then I finally got to where I am now. And here's even crazier thing. Because of the nature of all this stuff and then the awareness, COVID stopped me from becoming like just spiral out of control. So the one time that it stopped me from crushing me into the ground, COVID happened. And it put my life on pause, like my career on pause for my life. So if there's any luck, it's the one time something could ground all career advancements, like just to put everyone in the same line as I am. It happened during my life. And it might be, this narrative might sound very convenient and whatnot. It's like, yeah, it's paving a narrative, but that's how I'm seeing it. So I've reached a point where I'm in Kiryu's mindset, where you look back and you can't see how you can't see beyond being grateful for it, because your conclusion, the person you are now, and the things you can say with a smile. Like, I was bullied when I was all up to college. I was bullied. It was miserable. I had so many episodes where there's premeditated, self-harm, all that stuff happened in my life, and they're all linear. Like, there weren't the feeling of I could have gotten help or all that stuff. It just got all the way here, and those provided some life lessons, but the luck removed a lot of other different life lessons. And I learned that vicariously, because I reached an old enough age where I was in a career. By coincidence, I chose the career that would ultimately let me come with multiple perspectives so that I can compensate for the learning lessons that I lacked as a kid, that my parents don't provide, because they're in a different country. So they're not going to be able to provide a life lesson on how to acclimate growing up in school around people that think you're a communist. That's not a joke. That is literally the early days of my life, because of the way I looked. So that's kind of, my parents can't advise that. It's unreasonable to say that. So all the way up, it's so crazy. And that's kind of what I'm trying to inculcate. I guess that's my niche right now. My goal is to provide a counter perspective, maybe a counter perspective. I don't necessarily think it's the only perspective that counters it, but the current hustle culture is very dangerous, and the purest of hearts can have the unintentional effects of the most inexperienced and gullible people. I would not go out of my way to name names, but it's really up to, in my opinion, empowering the viewer what they can control on the stuff that they're taking in. Because right now, the ones that are controlling the infrastructure have not determined how to moderate it, how to regulate, like, guide, use what Shirashi said in this character. Like, there aren't Shirashis on YouTube or TikTok or something. What I mean is the infrastructure doesn't make it so that it's mandatory for everyone. It's, you either choose to run across someone like that, which there are great content creators that are like that. They're all wonderful in doing what they're in, like, they're not being malicious, but it's a chance. You have to get lucky to see who you come across. The first person you like, it's hard to tell a kid or a younger, inexperienced person to, hey, you might really like this person, but you might want to get out of that headspace and try to find other people who are very different that you don't care about because you walk past them and they don't. It's like, it's hard to convince someone. It's like, the person you dislike first, you might be able to learn something from them too, that kind of thing. It's very difficult to rip dopamine from a younger person. So when you talk to a younger person, an experienced person, or a lucky person who's a content creator, when they're speaking, you'll hear it. You'll hear it in their diction, the way they present themselves. It's like, oh, you're gonna like this. It's like, this is what you would like. This is easy, super easy. I know you're gonna love this because it's just easy. I'm gonna make this I'm gonna make this look like it's easy. You can do this. That is an inexperienced person, in my opinion. It doesn't mean they're malicious or anything, and it probably worked for them. But you can also counterbalance this with someone who says, yo, you know, I know you guys asked for a routine. I'll give you that routine in 10 steps or not. That's still a stardom guy. So, but a different one would be like, yeah, I'm not very strong, but hey, guess what? This is what I do. It's sufficient. It keeps myself healthy and it enables me to do things that I love. So it's a big contrast between someone who makes you feel brimming with energy all the time and someone who makes you think about whether you want to be excited or not excited about this. Unfortunately, the system favors one over the other because the vast majority of viewership is still relatively young and inexperienced. And then the older viewership tends to be inexperienced in a different way, like technologically. So their viewership still caters to the person who simplifies things. And what's on top of that is simplify things based on the experience of thousands of other people. And so they leapfrog the lack of experience. That's the internet expert. That's what I personally use the phrase internet expert for. They're not malicious people. They're vicariously interpreting things without experience, much like myself. But I use, in my opinion, just to safeguard myself, I'm telling people what other people say, like vicariously, the statistics. It's not my own personal experience because I don't have those experiences. I can only speak for myself in this situation because I'm telling you what I observe, not what I've experienced. What I mean is experience personally. I am experiencing my observations. So one could make a technicality where like, oh, but your observations that you're telling me are through your own lens. And it's like, yes, that's true. But I have not gone through those, like the actual events I'm talking about directly. So we turned this into a digression because it's a really important point. It's a central point. It's the thing I care about a lot. And that I hope in my most naive Kiryu way is that a human being goes through all three of those stages. You go through a bar owner stage, you go through a Kiryu stage, you go to a Sorashi stage. And what I mean by that is being aware of all of these things, whether it's firsthand or not. I hope it doesn't devastate you to a point where you don't get to experience all of that. I am biased in the sense that being aware is the GOAT. Outside of pretending to ignore something, selectively self-selecting yourself into things because of your biases, and that stuff puts a cap on your enlightenment. You can choose to be, you can reach Kiryu without ever being in a state of enlightenment. That's perfectly fair. Like, you live life really, really happy. Do what you always love. That's great. If it works out. If you're not, the people I'm talking to are not those people. Not those individuals who continue to be lucky their entire life. I'm not a person, I'm a person who got really lucky most of my life, I would say, but have chosen not to continuously be sheltered as a lucky person. Like, I know what I say sometimes sounds really, really harsh, but I still think I'm lucky. That's what happens when you become enlightened, in my opinion. That there's the bottom gets ever deeper and the top gets ever higher. That's a state of enlightenment. Not, oh, it can't get any worse. Like, for example, I can't even say thinking of driving off of a bridge on my way back home for Christmas vacation is the bottom. There's probably even darker bottom, but that's what it takes to elevate yourself, to keep on looking and keep on safeguarding yourself. And in the top, no, the PhD is not the top. Like, it's not even close. So, in fact, it's to the point where I downplay higher education more like and play up what the life lessons and experience that comes with tackling a thing that has a lot of stuff you might not like and the stuff you like. Obligating yourself to a PhD is what makes it valuable, not the context of the PhD. If you obligate yourself to something that takes many years of consistent effort, that is the value, not how much you're paying for it or how much you're gonna make from it. I mean, it could weigh in for sure. Like, we're not trying to compartmentalize. I'm not saying they're irrelevant. I'm trying to emphasize one of the bigger drivers that most people lose sight of, in my opinion, is the value of the life lesson. So for me, that's what basically gravitates me toward, enables me to tackle anything. Like, committing yourself 14 years to professionally being an educator, I don't think my life is going to be long enough to keep on doing that over and over again. So, but relatively speaking, most things do not obligate myself for more than 14 years. So, take it for what it is, you know? Oh, you're talking about, Josh, and you're referring to doing consistent effort. Consistent effort, you know, we're going back to the subjective contextualizing things. So that stuff can be worked around based on subjectivity. So we're not going to go into any of that stuff. I like to just focus on probably reeling it back for human condition. One of the core human conditions, there are a lot of them. I'm compartmentalizing, that's why there's a lot of them, but one of them in the big web of interconnected aspects is self-obligation, commitment. Shirashi is committed to himself to reinvest, to benefit himself in a sense moving forward, but he has obligated himself. The reason why he would repurpose this guy's bar owner, because he obligated himself to the bar owner. Not the bar owner didn't ask for it, like what he was about to do. Kiryu didn't ask for it. The bar owner did ask for it. So the bar owner is inexperienced. The other two represents two different states of mind that obligates themselves to it. So I am way past the situation where I need to even find motivation outside myself. Like, if someone tells me a good job, that's great, I appreciate it, but it's so small compared to my own obligations, my self-obligation. There's also a place and time for it, but that's also talk about contextual nature of the human variation. Becoming, like, jumping really far ahead robs you of the natural transition. So if you're a young person and what I'm saying sounds like you, there's a detriment to that. It stops you from other things too. Like, you won't learn how to enjoy yourself. You won't learn self-care. You won't learn, you're leapfrogging. So if at a young age you've become what I'm saying now, if you resonate with what I'm saying about self-obligation, incredible self-motivation, and like unconditional passion or something, that might be a little early as well. Like, that creates the other extreme where you have not learned to love yourself, to take care of yourself, to be able to take care of others. That stuff you like often leapfrog over when you lack a feeling of hardship, right? And then eventually you'll tackle it. So at some point, just finding you're putting yourself in newer situations when you can, right? Cue my digression on the net positive mindset. If you are not in a net positive mindset yet, being not ready for new experiences and constantly placing yourself in new experiences will exacerbate the stressors. But often you take, hopefully you a person develops enough awareness to obtain a net positive mindset to be able to place themselves in new situations. For me, I've said this before, because of the big C and how lucky life was and weird about my life, I've reached a state, at least currently in a stage of life, that I don't ever feel that I'm not net positive. So I'm constantly spiraling with ideas and taking new ideas because the bad or the good or the disagreeable, I'm ready for it. I'm generally a plus 10, and a 24-hour period, not even a 24-hour period, it's usually like a 14-hour period, 8 of which is in front of Twitch. That's at most a -6 if it can even get to a -6, and that would be like someone dropping in and telling me that I don't have a life, or they hate Chinese people or something like that. It has to be really, really bad, and I still can offset that. Like, I mean, that some of that stuff happened quite a few times already, but that's over the period of 4+ years, and not even close, because my life did spiral. I did have hardships, but in the end I still feel like I was lucky, and because I felt lucky, I was compelled to offset that luck, because I don't want people to rely on luck. Like, if I had a desire, life, you get lucky sometimes, but it's not luck when you want it. Like, you can't control luck. It's great to have luck, and I definitely feel I have luck, maybe even more so than the average person would believe. And so because of that, I'm trying to become aware of what has luck substituted for in my life, so that I can better understand and empathize with people who don't feel that way. And that's the goal. At least that's the goal of my social experiment. Starting 4 years ago technically, but I have a better vision of it recently, maybe like 1 or 2 years ago. I have a better vision of how I'm going to go about promoting a positive, net positive mindset, and maximizing luck-based occurrences while improving consistent high-frequency activities to promote a net positive mindset. It's really wordy. I don't really know how I'm gonna reword that stuff, but it's coming together in a way. In my head, it's coming together. It's constantly being rehearsed in my head how I'm gonna go about that. And the first thing is living by example. I go on a digression not because I have an agenda. I go on a digression because it's my living by example. When someone says, you talk the talk, but do you walk the walk? I tell them, I'm walking while I'm talking. And I'll let, you know, whoever sees this, which will end up becoming a video on somewhere, I'll let them interpret what that means to them, because I'm not going to explain that. I'm walking while I'm talking. So it is I hope that's self-explanatory. I won't explain what it means because I'm walking while I'm talking. They're one and the same. That's my goal. I think the brand that I'm promoting is you don't have to talk. You don't have to walk to back up what you say. And you don't have to say to back up what you want to show. You do them simultaneously. Because one can impact the world quite incredibly through words, vicariously. And one can do the other too. There's no reason they should be different. Yeah. So that's kind of the idea. And Shirashi did that. Shirashi is the GOAT here, the guy that's walked away off screen. Alright. We'll cut right there and proceed. I need more games that are trying to world build, because world building, every single time I have something to say about it. Character driven games, it's not as interesting. What I mean is, it's not as interesting to digress about. It's more interesting to talk about the character itself, and that might not be relatable to most people. I can comment on two people in the background. I can comment on the two people in the background. They're sipping pretty often. True. If we were in the streets, Josh, it happens more in the later game. It happens more in the earlier games, right, Joshing? When you like stand in the streets and you're talking to somebody, you just get pop-ins, and then you see like the random NPC just get stuck on the pole if you're near a pole. Those are the great moments. Like I love those moments in like older games. It happens less in like Yakuza 0 and Kiwami 1 and 2, especially 2, because 2, the engine has more dynamic like routing and whatnot and collision models when they're doing simple tasks. But older games, it's great. Like someone just like photo bombs you in front, you know how they like walk in front of the camera, or like you see the inside their skull because they clip through the virtual camera. I don't know, I think those moments are fantastic. Anyways, okay, so you don't know how much. Oh, just as a quick background, Josh, so basically we played a game of pool. I don't know if you were here, but we played a game of pool with a guy named Shirashi. This bar owner gambled and lost their bar deed to Shirashi. And Shirashi offered Kiryu to play for the bar deed. So if Kiryu won, he gets the bar deed back. And this guy pleaded to Kiryu to play in his place because he's never played pool before. But at the end, we won, right? We won. And then Kiryu asked, out of curiosity, which is very great example, he asked, what were you going to do if I lost? Because it's important to know, right? As opposed to, hey, I won. All is well as ends well. That's more of a less enlightened thing to say. But he asked, and Shirashi said, well, you know, I was going to take over the bar, run the bar. I was going to place this guy as the manager. I was going to place this bar owner as the manager. And then Kiryu was like, oh, I see. And then sometime down the line, you'll give him the opportunity to get the bar back. Right? And that's exactly what I was foretelling. Like when I was digressing as I was going through, it's like, I hope they go a different route. And the RGG, the person who wrote it, whatever group wrote this, nailed it. Like that's the greatest lesson you could, in my opinion, one of the greatest way to make something so innocuous become so meaningful. So the idea is like Shirashi And the character Shirashi literally said to teach this guy a lesson. Yeah. So in the end, I was thinking, this can't just be, Shirashi can't just do this, right? A natural person, like what I mean is a person in his position would not think of it that way. They wouldn't just, he's old, he's an older person, so he focused on his age and stuff, and you start thinking there's no way they could act like a young person because they're old, and the characterization was great. So yeah, so the idea is, in the long run, ironically, Kiryu has done a disservice, but he is acting on his self-sacrificing thing too. Yeah. It was literally written on there. Shirashi wanted to teach a life lesson to the bar owner while making sure he succeeds off Shirashi's success. And win or lose, he was going to get his bar back anyways. But on the one hand, he's just going to get the bar back and get good faith from Kiryu. On the other hand, he was going to get it back after the guy makes sure it's successful, because he is getting more out of it by making the bar successful and reinvesting in this person, and that person is going to be successful and passes it along. I think generally speaking, this is the type of theme that most of these sub-stories take, where Kiryu is the one that's offering the lesson, right? And that's so great. Like, there are two different people offering a lesson. And then what this guy said was exactly what I mean about getting lucky in life. This person says, I'll never gamble again. I swear. He doesn't know that. A lucky person who gets a lucky break would say that, generally speaking. They wouldn't say, oh, well, I'll try my best to not gamble again and hope that I don't make poor mistakes, because they don't know that they made a mistake. They got lucky again. Kiryu saved them. Kiryu bailed him out. So it's easy to say you'll never gamble again. But you know. Yeah. Anyways. Let's keep going. Here, I promise you a reward. I know it's not much, but it's the best I can do. Kiryu would just say, no, I didn't really do all that much. 100 yen. Alright. That's a lot of money, actually. But see you later. I gotta tell my wife the good news. He has a wife, too? Oof. He bet the bar? And he's married? Yikes. Kiryu just waiting to get out. Oof. This guy gambled the bar on poker. And he has a wife. Yikes. That's rough. That we didn't even know that detail, but anyways, that's tough. It seems like completing sub stories in Yakuza 3 is gonna take a really long time. And now I need to go to the bathrooms. I guess he's divorced now.